There's a moment in every person's life when they're forced to look in the mirror and ask themselves a question that terrifies them. Who am I really? And more importantly, who could I become? Today, I'm going to tell you a story that will shake everything you thought you knew about success, redemption, and the power of the human spirit. This isn't just another rags to riches tale. This is about a man who lost everything, including his freedom, his dignity, and his hope, and somehow found a way to build an empire from the rubble of his broken life. By the end of this story, you'll understand that no matter where you are right now, no matter how far you've fallen, your comeback can be greater than your setback. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just save your life. Picture this: a cold concrete floor, 4 gray walls closing in. The sound of metal doors slamming shut echoes down the hallway, and with each slam, a piece of your soul seems to disappear. This was the reality for Chris Wilson, 23 years old, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Not 10 years, not 20 years. Life forever. Imagine being told at 23 that you will never breathe free air again, never hold someone you love, never chase a dream, never become anything more than a number in an orange jumpsuit. Most of us can't even imagine that level of despair. Chris didn't just imagine it, he lived it. And in that cell, surrounded by violence, hopelessness, and the screams of men who had given up on themselves, Chris made a decision that would change everything. He decided that his past would not define his future. He decided that even though the world had given up on him, he would not give up on himself. But let me be clear, this decision wasn't some magical moment of clarity. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. Chris spent his first year in prison angry, bitter, and broken. He had grown up in Washington, D.C. in the 80s and 90s, surrounded by poverty, drugs, and violence. His father was absent. His mother struggled. By the time he was a teenager, the streets had already claimed him. He made choices that led to tragedy, choices that ended another person's life and destroyed his own. And now, sitting in that cell, the weight of those choices crushed him every single day. He could have stayed there, drowned in guilt and regret. Most people do. But something inside Chris refused to die. One day, a mentor visited the prison, an older man who had been incarcerated himself and had somehow managed to turn his life around. This man looked Chris in the eyes and said something that pierced through all the darkness. He said, "You are not your worst mistake. You are not what you did. You are what you do from this moment forward." Those words planted a seed. Chris realized that even though he couldn't change his past, even though he couldn't bring back what was lost, he could still choose who he became in that cell. He could choose to grow. He could choose to learn. He could choose to become someone who could one day make a difference, even if he never walked free again. So Chris did something radical. He created a plan. Right there in his cell, he wrote down a detailed life plan for the next 30 years. He listed every skill he wanted to learn, every book he wanted to read, every way he wanted to grow as a human being. He decided to get his GED. Then he decided to take college courses. Then he decided to learn about business, about entrepreneurship, about leadership. People laughed at him. Other inmates mocked him. What's the point? You're never getting out. You're wasting your time. But Chris kept going. He studied every single day. He read thousands of books. He took every class the prison offered. He mentored younger inmates. He volunteered for every program. He turned his cell into a university and his mind into a weapon of transformation. Years passed. 5 years. 10 years. 15 years. Chris never stopped. He earned college degrees. He became a certified master carpenter. He learned how to write, how to speak, how to inspire. And slowly, something miraculous started happening. His story began to reach people on the outside. Advocates noticed him. Lawyers noticed him. His transformation was so undeniable, so profound, that people started fighting for him. They saw what the justice system had missed. They saw a man who had taken full responsibility for his actions. A man who had done everything humanly possible to become better. A man who deserved a second chance. After 16 years behind bars, Chris Wilson walked out of prison. But here's what's incredible. He didn't walk out broken. He didn't walk out angry. He walked out prepared. He walked out educated. He walked out with a vision. And within just a few years, Chris founded a construction company that would employ dozens of people, many of them formerly incarcerated individuals who society had thrown away just like they had thrown him away. His company became a multi-million-dollar enterprise. He wrote a best-selling book called The Master Plan that inspired millions around the world. He became a sought-after speaker, a mentor, a beacon of hope for anyone who thought their past disqualified them from a future. Chris Wilson went from a life sentence to CEO, from hopeless to unstoppable, from forgotten to unforgettable. But this story isn't just about Chris. It's about you. It's about every single person who's ever felt like they've messed up too badly to recover, like they've fallen too far to climb back up, like their mistakes have permanently disqualified them from success or happiness or redemption. Chris's story teaches us something profound. It teaches us that transformation is always possible. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. No matter how dark your past, no matter how deep the hole you're in, you have the power to write a new chapter. You have the power to become someone completely different. So what are the lessons here? What can we learn from a man who turned a prison cell into a classroom and a life sentence into a launchpad? First, understand this. Your circumstances do not define you. Your choices do. Chris couldn't control being born into poverty. He couldn't control the violence that surrounded him as a kid. He couldn't even undo the terrible choice he made as a young man. But he could control what he did next. He could control whether he gave up or got up. He could control whether he let his environment shape him or whether he shaped himself. You might be in a job you hate right now. You might be in debt. You might be struggling with addiction or depression or failure. But those circumstances are not your identity. They're just your current reality. And realities can change when you change. Second lesson. Small daily actions compound into massive transformation. Chris didn't become a CEO overnight. He didn't walk out of prison and immediately start a business. He spent 16 years doing small things every single day. Reading one book, completing one assignment, having one meaningful conversation, making one good choice. And over time, those small actions accumulated into something extraordinary. This is the secret that most people miss. We want instant transformation. We want to wake up tomorrow as a completely different person. But that's not how it works. Real change happens slowly, quietly, persistently. What are you doing today that your future self will thank you for? Are you reading? Are you learning? Are you building a skill? Are you becoming 1% better? Because if you do that every single day for a year, you'll be 37 times better than you are right now. And in 5 years, you'll be unrecognizable. Third lesson. Your past can become your purpose. Chris could have been ashamed of his story. He could have hidden it, buried it, pretended it never happened. Instead, he owned it. He turned his pain into purpose. He used his experience to help other people who were struggling with the same darkness he had faced. Your mess can become your message. Your test can become your testimony. The things you've been through, the mistakes you've made, the pain you've endured, these aren't liabilities. They're assets. You can start today. Right now. This moment. You can make a decision that changes the trajectory of your entire life. You can choose to stop making excuses and start making progress. You can choose to stop dwelling on what you've lost and start building what's next. So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, I want you to do one thing. Just one. Write down your master plan. Not for 30 years like Chris did. Just for the next 90 days. Who do you want to become? What do you want to learn? What habit do you want to build? What relationship do you want to heal? What dream do you want to chase? Write it down. Make it specific. Make it real. And then take the first step. Read the first chapter. Make the first call. Do the first workout. Apply for the first opportunity. Because here's the truth that Chris Wilson proved beyond any doubt. Your comeback starts the moment you decide it does. Not when circumstances are perfect. Not when you feel ready. Not when other people believe in you. It starts when you believe in yourself enough to take action despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the past. Chris Wilson turned a prison cell into a palace of possibility. Imagine what you can do with the freedom you already have. Your story isn't over. In fact, the best chapter might be about to begin. The only question is, are you ready to write it?